I'm so happy to have Dinesh Sharma with us today. Dinesh is a LESS trainer and coach. So he has over 25 years of experience helping organizations with adopting agile ways of working. He has worked with some of the most complex product development anywhere in the world, including many large financial services organizations, government departments, aerospace, defense, and global consultancies. He is going to talk with us on a very interesting topic today, team's identity and its impact on organizational adaptability, especially in large digital transformations. Dinesh, warm welcome to this podcast. Of
Thanks.
many, we have all been part of many teams and different team structures in the product development setup. So, Dinesh, what exactly is a team identity?
So it's an interesting topic because I have been studying a lot on the group dynamics, and I have found that when I work with the teams or organizations, I see a certain pattern in the teams. So teams try to relate themselves with something, and they create an identity. So it could be like if you are working and building a product, you could call yourself, say, hey, we are part of the payment team, or we are part of the security team. And whenever you introduce yourself somewhere, say, hey, for example, if informally or formally you're working somewhere and somebody asks you about you, say, hey, what do you do? And then they say, oh, actually, I'm part of this team. And that this team is actually, they start relating themselves with in that social structure, right? So team identity is where teams see themselves is part of the system, which part of the system they belongs to, and they started associating themselves with that part of the system itself. So that's what I call it, team identity.
Okay, that's really interesting, Dinesh. Looking at it from another side, so team learning is vital because it is teams and not individuals who are the fundamental learning block of an organization, right? So, how does the team identity impact a team and also the organization level learning?
Okay, so it's a very interesting question because I did a bit of research on that. In fact, I interviewed lots of coaches who have been, or consultant who have been working in this digital transformation or agile transformations, and irrespective of whether what framework method they are using it, I went into further and asked people and interviewed and collected data. And what people have said is basically mostly qualitative research, not quantitative, right? And how does so this was one of my questions when I asked people, how does the team identity impacts a team and also organization? So like I said earlier, when team starts so in a very small sentence, that the broader the team identity, the more learning and adaptability they bring to the organization itself. And let me explain that. So let's take an example. Say you are working for a gaming company, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the organization objective is, if organization objective is to become an adaptive organization, right? How does team identity directly impacts that? So with my previous example, in a gaming company, for example, if I say that, hey, I work for a team, I work for a payment team, right? Then anything outside payment, is it my worry or not my worry? And it has a direct impact on then the organization adaptability. What if that when organizations are working on something and payment is not the most important thing at that point of the time? What should they do? Should they just carry on busying with the payment itself and not do anything else? Not help other part of the organization where the need is higher, right? So if you see that way, so I call it as a local identity. So if you stuck with a narrow identity level, right? Even in the payment, people may say that, hey, I am part of the payment integration team, right?
Okay.
Further, people can go, oh, I'm a part of a Visa integration team. I'm part of a MasterCard integration team, for example, itself, right? So the local the identity, the less useful that team become for the organization adaptability, because they would say the only thing we know is the payment integration with Visa or MasterCard or even with the payment, right? So their learning is limited to that part of the organization itself rather than the overall what customers see. When customers see your product, they don't see payment as a product, right? So it's very customers see that experience, the gaming experience that you provide to them, and that's what they're and what you want basically to do is that you want to elevate that identity to the customer level, more customer centricity, as we call it, right? And that's where when people are solving those real organizational customer problem or market problem, rather than just constraining themselves into a very local identity level, like a payment, for example. Now, let me give an example that the team that who has stronger local identity, they are opposed to the learning as well without realizing it. Take it this way. So a team is basically if a team is basically a payment team, for example, I'll continue with that example so we can relate it to. Then they would reluctant to learn something else about the organization because they think that their responsibility and accountability, the heavy word that we use in the organization, are limited to the product, the payment only, and they would rather stop worrying about anything else. I have been into many organizations where organizations, especially like if you talk to CEO, CIO, they get frustrated that our teams are not customer centric. We do not, they don't try to experience what customers are experiencing, right? Because and one of the pattern I have seen is because of the organization deliberately limit them to a very silo local identity, and that's why they're not seeing it. If they try to elevate that local identity at a more product level, for example, and when I say product, I mean a broader product, like a gaming experience is a product rather than chat is a product in that gaming experience, or a payment is a product itself. So this is how a team's identity directly impacts organization, their learning, and then organization learning as well.
Okay, great. So I think it is so important for the teams to see the larger picture and be customer centric. So I think that is something which I could gather from your last discussion. So
it
let's
is,
move on.
and then but it is also not just those team. It is the organization's structure also should be that way that they could relate themselves to. If organizations say no, you're only part of the payment, then they don't. Organization should not expect them to that they would be customer centric. They would be very payment centric. Take it this way.
Right, got it. Okay, so we live in a VUCA world. I think the ongoing COVID crisis is a testimony to this, right? So we have all seen this pan out. So in this context, the agility and adaptability have become even more important factors for an organization to thrive in these conditions. So how does the team identity impact the organizational adaptability?
Yeah, so my so I have spoken with lots of teams that I used to work in the past and existing teams as well, right? How the whole COVID situation has impacted them. And what I find is that the team that were actually were more customer centric, they have remained even more customer centric now. They have put an extra caution around them to say that do not derail from that concept. But the team that were actually local, stayed at the local identity, they have gone further local on that, because of the distributed nature of the working from home kind of concept also. So it has actually reduced organization adaptability. Now, a lot of organizations say that, hey, they have survived, they have accommodated this working from home. They have provided the tools and technology for teams to be understanding, and I've spoken with lots of people other also, that those organizations actually had never tried to understand that what is the impact of a team on the organization. They have always seen, even within the team level, they have seen the individual productivity more than a team productivity, right? How a team works together, and then what is the importance of that. So And any organization which is just focusing on individual and not the team, I see they have gone worse, but they don't know that, right? They are not able to compare the past and future or present at the moment. So they may say that we are adaptable because we have managed to actually let people work from home. So that is true. That is true. But what is its impact on actual organization adaptability to solve the problem, the real problem? I think that has gone down because organization has never actually, even though they have team, they have never seen those teams actually as a unit. They are working together, and that's why they are not able to see the impact when those teams are now distributed in nature. So I think so the team organization that understood that how important it is for them to basically collaborate, work together, because we often use team also in a very loose context. I have worked with a lot of organization where they call it team, but as soon as work starts, everybody working individually on those work, and then they finish their own work and they think that they're working as a team, whereas they have never actually sat together, do the pair programming or more programming, and solve the problem together also. So a lot of organization thought that, hey, by this COVID situation, when people are working home, they are fine because even previously they were just taking one task and delivering it, and now they are doing that also. And so they don't have to come to office and they're still doing the same thing. That's where we have adaptable. But that's not what the adaptability means. Basically, as you said, that the teams are building block of the organization, and if they don't work together, they don't have that sense of togetherness to solve the customer problem, then their adaptability gets directly impacted from that also.
Okay. So as you said, I think remote work is reshaping the way we work, right? So
Yeah.
so how do you see the team's social identity evolve in this new environment, right? I think this is also in a lot of new challenges to us
Yeah.
as teams.
Yeah.
So how do we overcome some of these challenges?
So it is interesting because this is the remote working. Like I said earlier, also a lot of organizations thinks that they have done well in this remote working environment, but they are not able to understand what is the impact they have on the adaptability, because a lot of time organization never had that goal itself, that being adaptable. They everybody likes to use the word agility, right, without
Mhm.
understanding what exactly it means, right?
Yeah.
So I think remote working can be so one of the one of the option that it has given to organization, that they can look for a talent at a global level when they are working remotely, right? And but building that social identity is even more difficult now in a remote environment, because you are not meeting with people. uh, I mean, meeting on screen versus meeting personal is completely different thing. Something which used to take like tap of the shoulder if you want to discuss with someone and get the answer. Now you need to schedule a meeting because you don't know what other person is doing it. So it's way much more harder. And the more I speak with the people who actually used to work as a team, they think it's very challenging for us, and they see that social identity is diluting a bit, because now the identity is more like a task level rather than at a team level now, right? Even they may, like if you're using Scrum or Kanban, whatever, they may still plan together work, but because of the technology, they can't see with each other. There may be a bandwidth issue, so people are switching off the video. There's so many factors which was not there, right? So it has a direct impact on social identity. So, but it has given people flexibility as well, right? So I think it's looks like it's going in a bit more hybrid model. But the team that has enjoyed each other company, they have, like, I have worked with a lot of teams which used to do more programming together, and they're still trying to maintain that, but they know that it is much harder than it used to be when they were in office.
Okay. Okay. So I think as the situation is still evolving, I think we need to see how this is going to evolve, right? So
Yeah.
right. So finally, Do you have any tips for the teams so that they could effectively contribute towards becoming a more agile, adaptive, and a learning organization?
Yeah, I mean, especially in connection to the team identity, it is very important to understand how team builds the identity itself. So I was talking to one of my friend. He's an agile coach, an excellent agile coach and trainer as well. And he was saying that traditionally, when organization starts their digital transformation or agile transformation, and then before, if they were working on a more traditional waterfall style way of working, and he used to say that then people have their own individual identity, right? And he explained in a way, funny way, that he says it's more like a beauty pageant. Everybody's trying to look better than others, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that they can get the social reward, monetary reward, or whatever it is, right? The learning focus has been on self rather than as a team, right? And
Mm-hmm.
when these organizations starts, they basically, what do? They create these teams, right? And
Mm-hmm.
gradually teams start, individuals start associating them with the team itself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when that happens, that beauty pageant actually starts at the team level. It's still that you see in a lot of organization that people say, "Oh, my team is better than other." They don't say openly like that way, but normally start feeling you have a local identity, so that focus is more who looks better than other, right?
Okay.
Especially same for the social reward and recognition as well, right? Now, these are the actually impeding factors for organization or teams to be adaptive and learning organization, because their identity is still at a team level. And a few good team that I have worked is that they work at a product level. What is the next business problem? What is the next customer problem? And we want to solve that. And what I have found through my research, like I mentioned earlier, is
Mm-hmm.
that the teams there actually try to help each other out to solve the problem, because they know that they have to work together to solve that problem, right? So they would share proactively stuff that they think is useful for other teams also. And teams are more receptive because there's no competition among each other. There is a collaboration with each other. For example, if three teams know that they have to solve that problem together because they are customer centric, and that's why they're working together, there's more incentive for them to collaborate with each other, which has a direct impact on the organization learning, because then rather than a team is learning, three teams learning together, right? So you don't have that like a hero culture or a local individual culture in those organizations. And the most important factor is that how do you define your product, right? The
Okay.
more narrow way you define the product, the more local team identity you would see in the organization. So for example, if I define, like in the previous example, if I define my product as a payment, even though customer doesn't pay for the payment, right? Unless payment, you're selling payment, right? But in
Mm-hmm.
that gaming experience that I gave you, the main product, if you ask your customer, they would say, I come for that online gaming experience. That's why I like you, right? That way. And if your product definition is narrower than that, then you would see that local identity, that you would see that learning is very local learning, and that and there's a less of the organization adaptability. So it's very important that you basically elevate your product, you define your product at a broader level, from more customer level, and ask team to work on that, prioritize at that level itself, and then learn from that. That's where the team would be able to associate themselves with the that we are solving the customer problem, and then they can, like in an adaptive way, solve that problem, get the feedback, and then learn from that also how the customer reacted to what they have done. And that's what they actually start associating themselves with the broader product and become more customer centric, which has a direct impact on their learning. Then they say that. So like if you see Tesla or SpaceX,
Mm-hmm.
if you study those organizations, they don't say that, hey, I'm a engine team, or I'm part of the jet propeller for the SpaceX. They say we are building the rocket, we're building the SpaceX, we belongs to SpaceX, and we solve that problem rather than solving a local problem here itself, because they know that the goal of the organization is to build a rocket rather than just build a component of that rocket itself, right? So components are important, but your organization design should not be that component centric. That should be product centric, and I think that has a direct correlation on the organization adaptability.
Well, thank you so much for this wonderful insights, Dinesh. It was great having you with us.
No problem. Thank you very much.